recording. Okay. So
You want to
yeah.
go first or
Right.
me, Drew?
Go ahead, Kent.
Hey there, you have Jillian
And Josh.
here with Far Out Tiny Homes. And today we are speaking with Kent and Drew, or Andrew, of Tiny House Magazine. We are talking armchair experts, how to spot that fake advice. They have a really
BS.
how to spot the BS. They have really interesting perspective within this industry because they've been involved in the industry since early stages of 2000. So it's been quite a while. I would say that they are both not armchair experts, but actual experts. And today we're just going to dissect how to identify crap content or good content.
My name's Kent Griswold, and I started the Tiny House blog back in 2007. Back when there were no other tiny house blogs out there, just Jay Schaefer and his website and a couple other little tiny websites talking about somebody built a tiny house here or there, but it was really difficult to find anything about tiny houses. My interest stemmed from simple cabins that I stayed in growing up, and I had just started finding links out on the internet, and I happened to stumble across Jay Schaefer and tiny houses, and I had all these links built up, and I just thought I'd share it as a blog. So I registered Tiny House Blog. There was a bunch of interest, and so instead of publishing once a week, I started doing it 2 or 3 times. Eventually, over the years, got to where I was publishing 7 days a week, and we're just about ready to publish issue 100 here in a couple of weeks.
As Kent will attest to, I have found a way to kind of do it all. I'm an academic by nature, so I was never really satisfied with just the building and living part of tiny houses. I've written 2 books of my own and a couple of furniture plans. I've edited about 4 different books. I've written the foreword for several books. I've been in a few documentaries. I've put on over 17 festivals. I've done about 10 workshops across the country.
One thing I like about what Drew is, what we've tried to do with the magazine is not get the mainstream stuff. We want to get real stories of real people living it, because you look at the media that's picked it up with the TV shows, 80-90% of that is made up, and it's not true life.
Both of you combined, again, you have so much experience just with witnessing the movement, where it has come from, where it's probably going in the future, which I'm sure we could talk about for hours. But with the birth of so much information at our fingertips, it seems that so many people are defining themselves as experts when there's potential there that maybe they really shouldn't be, giving out, contributing information that can really hinder the movement. And so I'm curious on your guys' take on, this new wave of armchair experts and your thoughts on how it hinders, how it potentially helps, and really how to spot it and what it is.
Via the blog and the communications I get there's a lot of fake builders and stuff out there who will take people's plans and call them their own, or take pictures and then will promote it, and it ends up being a scam. That's really sad. That's one of the biggest things I've seen. And then there's, of course, those on YouTube and stuff who claim they're doing these things, and in reality they're not. They're just copying information off of other YouTubers' sites like Diedrichson's and stuff. They're just reproducing his stuff using his words, and it's to get a following. They're just trying to make money through Google ads, etc., or a pure scam, being a builder and stuff, taking people's money.
Yeah, one of the things that always bothers me, I agree with what Kent's saying. We've seen it more often than not, where people will replicate plans and they'll make one minor change, which is not even really a change, but they'll make one minor alteration and they'll try and package it as their own. But one of the things I have to look out for a lot of the times is when I am kind of just, looking at people's social media feeds or whatever, I will oftentimes see pictures that'll be really impressive, and then it'll dawn on me, wait, I've seen that picture before. There's a lot of content sharing that is uncredited. And I think that's so unfair, because the people that did create those things deserve all the credit, and they deserve lots of praise for what they've done, for their discipline and their vision and that sort of stuff. And in this age of kind of armchair experts, the problem I have is that, when I was first building in 2010, I relied heavily on 2 or 3 websites, which were really the only 2 or 3 websites available at the time. One of them was Tiny House Blog, of course. The other was a couple that I've actually reconnected with. They were posting, 2 or 3 times a week about building this tiny house thing. And then some sporadic articles by Jay Schaefer. And what I found was that even though I wasn't following those blog posts as like instructionals, I was leaning on them very heavily for kind of expert opinion. And I think right now what we're seeing this onslaught of people who really have no authority, especially people who have never built a tiny house before, telling others how to build it, saying, oh, well, you should do this, or you should do that. Or, someone may ask a question in a Facebook group that has 20,000 people, and they say, oh, well, I'm looking for a hot water heater for my 250 square foot home, what do you recommend? And you get 100 people making recommendations, and some of them are completely unfounded. They did a quick Google search because they feel the need to be a voice. So they'll do a quick Google search, maybe something like top 5 on-demand hot water heaters for RVs. And they'll randomly pick one of those, and then that's how they'll respond to it in the Facebook page. So I think there's this horrible miscommunication of bad information that goes around. And so when I'm, looking at content or trying to bring in new content for the magazine, that sort of stuff, I really try and vet the people to see what it is they've done before, what they're doing now, and kind of where they fit in with things. I don't like to pick people that I don't ever look for new contributors just in the comment thread of something, because I find that those people really don't have the robust experience that's needed. So I really look for people I always look for people who are not afraid to admit they made a mistake. I think that's important. When people can say, hey, on their Instagram feed, they have a picture of like a wall that looks like that or something, and the caption says, well, I guess we didn't measure quite right on that stud, or something like that. Yeah. I find that those are the most authentic, and those resonate the most with the audience, because it's people saying, look, we don't know it all, but we're willing to share with you what we do know. Segueing into the magazine, that's one of the things that I think makes us a really rich resource, and a really qualified resource, is that we print it all. We don't try and cherry pick the really awesome houses and show you the beautiful Instagram pictures. We show you lots of different things in between.
How do you spot the imposters? Like, so for somebody specifically that's on a Facebook page and they're like going through the steps of actually building their home, but then they get to that specifically the hot water issue and they don't know what they don't know. So what are your tips on being able to spot some BS in the comment thread, or even in other blogs or other YouTube videos? I mean, we're saturated with misinformation here. So what is your all's best practice for identifying it and moving on?
Yeah, so there's been a couple of times where people have submitted something and I've been a little suspect of it, and I've actually asked them if they could text me a picture of what they're talking about. So for instance, if they're talking about, oh yeah, I did a PEX disconnect that's hidden behind a panel in my bathroom so you can shut off individual water lines, I'll be like, hey, text me a picture of that. That sounds awesome. And they either go like crickets on me, or they'll send, a picture. And because my background's in design as well, there are things on the picture I'll immediately look for. I'll look for warping up the picture. I'll look where they didn't crop it quite enough and I can see just a faint bit of the trademark or the copyright sign in the lower left corner or something. Okay. I've even had people that have gone through with it, sent me a picture, and it's had a watermark on it from someone else.
So once you find somebody that you feel is credible, basically what you're saying is dig a little deeper and, you know, really figure out their background, reach out to them, see if they actually have a legit stance or if this is just something weird hobby that they do just to impersonate somebody who actually knows what they're talking about. And that kind of leads us to really paid versus free content, because free content is everywhere. I think that's the bigger issue here, is that folks are trying to learn a whole tiny house education for free, which is great because there are some reputable sources, but there are a lot of folks out there that are getting bad information. So what is your all's take and the importance of paid content versus free content?
The reason why we validate the notion of a paid, a magazine that has a paid subscription or even a purchase an individual issue is that Kent and I spend on average, I would say we probably spend about 80 to 90 hours a month, which I have a full-time job and Kent's retired. So that's on top of everything else, vetting our sources and making sure that they're legit and that the information is valid information. And because we've both been in the modern tiny house movement for so long, we have a little bit more insight as to what's happened in the past, and we can say, wait a sec, we've seen something like that before. Or Kent, you remember 6 or 7 years ago, so and so who did such and such? That looks an awful lot like it. Let's check that. Or something simple, like a Google search where I will copy and paste a huge line and I'll put it into Google, and then I'll see where it came from, an article on like woodworking.com. And I'll say, okay, something's not right about that. So the vetting that we do to make sure that the information in the pages is worth it. Because face it, in today's world, you get what you pay for, plain and simple. And it's like any other magazine. You don't get Real Simple magazine because they give you, pathetic articles about, how to, make your junk drawer condo friendly or something. You pay for that magazine because you trust their advice.
Right.
So in paying for Tiny House Magazine, what we're saying is we promise to give you the best content and advice and stories that we can provide based on our experience, based on our professionalism, and based on our research.
I think due diligence in any investment is important. I mean, if you're going to go check out some builder who's emailed you, oh, I do a tiny house, you need to go and make sure their business is real. You need to find former customers who have used them, because people will rip you off. I think you need to make that foremost in your research. Also, the advantage of most paid resources out there is they have pulled all the information together. If you're just going for free content, you're going to find everybody's opinion and have to figure it out on your own, plus pull all this stuff together to actually make it happen. To try to build a house that way would be next to impossible. And yet it's out there, and it will always be out there. But if you want something put together, you're going to pay for it, because somebody will have taken the time to pull that information and done the due diligence for you. So you're not in that position of being pulled so many directions and not knowing what is right for your situation.
We definitely field our fair share of people who are like, oh, I could build that house for $10,000. Why would they charge $80,000 for it? And that's another good sign. That's a pretty good indication that they've never built anything.
Yeah.
My subscribers specifically, I know that they'll have more specific questions as they dig into like the meat of their design and their structural plumbing and all that comes with it. Do you all allow folks to write in and say, hey, I need these questions answered, and then you guys maybe have like an Ask Abby forum or something like that, where they're paying for this subscription, but they're also receiving information that they really need as well?
Yeah, so we have a section, we've run a section called Ask the Builder before, and we currently have a section called Ask the Designer. And so it is right now. Ask the Designer is Joanna Elsner of Perch and Nest Tiny Homes out of Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Mhm.
And any questions that come in, we field them to her, and she responds as she would during one of her paid consultations. And then we print the answers to that. So yeah, we definitely entertain anybody that wants to write in. And even if it's not in our regular layout, if they write something in, Kent and I are pretty good. You know, when it's digital, you can add and subtract pages without the price going up.
Yeah.
So if it's something that's really good, we'll find a way to get it in the magazine because we think it's an added value to the people that read the magazine.
Do you all have a special or anything going on that I can offer the subscribers watching today?
Yeah, so if you subscribe now, Kent will actually he will actually come to your house and hold your iPad while you flip through the pages.
We are offering the magazine at 25% off, $37 instead of the usual $50 per year for the PDF version of the magazine.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, it's chock full of fantastic and useful information. Both of these folks with us, Andrew and Kent, are godfathers, pioneers of the movement.
I would encourage everyone, if you've not read Tiny House Magazine, pick up at least a copy, try to subscribe. We have 99 archive issues that go back, 7, almost 8 years of the modern tiny house movement. It's well worth the investment. If for nothing else, it's a really interesting visual look at how far we've come in the modern tiny house movement in the past 8 years. So thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I look forward to everybody getting a hold of the 100th issue of Tiny House Magazine.
Good job, Drew. tinyhousemagazine.co.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and talk about all these crazy armchair experts out there. Thank you so much for making the movement move, and you all keep it groovy.
Keep it groovy.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Well, that about wraps it up for us today. Don't forget that link is in the description. If you're finding our content valuable, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Consider turning on notifications. Our upload is every Friday at 4 a.m. That is wrong.
9 a.m.
That's
I'm
wrong
up at
too.
4 a.m.
4 p.m. every Friday. So definitely subscribe, guys. Other than that, I'm going to go enjoy my weekend, and I hope you do the same. Oh, you know what to do. And you know what to do.
Keep it groovy.